And we are live. Welcome back to the Content Swap Podcast. You are joined by Parker and
Aaliyah.
And if this is your first time listening to the Content Swap Podcast, this is a show in which we, a married couple, assign each other a piece of content at the end of every episode. We then spend the time between episodes engaging with that content in whatever form it takes, and then we compile some facts, put together a little summary of the content itself, and then we discuss pretty much everything that can be possibly discussed that we can think of on this here podcast. That could be the story, the themes, the making of, behind the scenes facts, pretty much everything. So, before we dive into it, we always like to provide a little update on the other content that we've been engaging with between episodes. And I always let you kind of take it away first. And sometimes it's content, sometimes it's life. So, go ahead. You have the floor.
Yeah, not much has happened. I feel like, when was the last time we recorded?
February 20th.
Oh, wow, that was a minute ago.
It was actually a while ago.
Got you. I feel like school, work has been very busy, so not much content, I feel like, being watched, at least on my side of things. I finished a book called Before the Coffee Gets Cold, which I feel like I mentioned it in the last episode.
You did.
But yeah, I thought it was a really great book. It's a very like short, kind of anthology-esque book, but still has a lot of the same characters in each little story that's in the book. And yeah, I highly recommend if you're looking for a very quick, easy read. It's great, and like it packs some emotion. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, highly recommend it. I also started a book called The School for Good Mothers. So I've only read I'm only like 20 pages in. So we'll see if I like it. In terms of shows or movies, I'm like, what? Did we talk about how we started White Lotus?
We did. We talked about the first episode a little bit. We talked about how the kids were weird,
and they still are.
Yeah. The kids aren't all right.
They need help. Well, gotcha. So I feel like most of the content I've been engaging with has been us together. I don't think there's really anything on my own. Shall I bring up split fiction, or do you want to talk about split fiction?
Oh, I forgot. That wasn't even on my list.
Gotcha. Well, I can talk about it.
Yeah, talk about it.
This morning, we started Split Fiction, which is the second co-op game, at least, from the people who made third co-op game from the people who made It Takes Two. Sorry, I always forget about the, prison one.
Yeah. It's technically the fourth game from the studio. The first one was called, I think it was like Brothers or something, but that one wasn't like strictly co-op. It was, I don't know. I didn't play. I was watching an interview with the director the other day. He said it was a single player game, but it was like two boys, and then he was like responding to some post that people were like, "Oh, what is this woke nonsense?" And he was like, "Okay, like the first game was two guys, second game was two guys, third game was a guy and a woman, and now it's two women, and you're freaking out. Get over it, you know." But anyway, it was so we've played A Way Out, we've played It Takes Two, and now Split Fiction is the new one.
Yeah. And I feel like A Way Out was like, I feel like it wasn't as co-op as like It Takes Two was. Like, I feel like there was much more you could do in It Takes Two than A Way Out. And I feel like this one feels like very much like It Takes Two, but like with a complete different story and like mechanics in a sense. Some stuff is different mechanics wise, but then some stuff I feel like is kind of similar.
I think the design sense is kind of the same.
Yeah.
But the puzzles and the experience itself is different.
Yeah. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm much better at it than I thought. I think I might have said this in the previous podcast episode, but I was really scared that it was going to be too difficult for me, just because when we watched the trailer, I was like, that looks hard. That looks very, very hard. And I feel like I did struggle a lot with like It Takes Two in certain places where I just like needed your help so much. And like we needed to like switch characters, switch controllers, because I just like could not get it down. And I feel like I'm crushing it in this game, and I'm pretty proud of myself.
Yeah, I'm actually quite impressed with you as well, just because I knew that you were worried going into it that it was going to be too hard, and I was like, oh no, if it's too hard, she's not going to want to keep playing it, and it looks like a ton of fun. And I know that, like, you're always kind of like, when can we play It Takes Two again? And it's like, right now, but a different game.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to play It Takes Two again, but
Have I said that though? I was like,
yes.
I don't remember saying.
I mean, you're just like, you're chasing.
I
want
to. I want that same feeling that It Takes Two gave.
Yeah.
Because I just have such a fond memory of when we played It Takes Two. It's a whole relationship thing. We won't get into the details.
Sure.
But I just like really loved that moment for us of like playing It Takes Two. We were also watching Attack on Titan. Like we were like
Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah. Like we were just like engaging in so much fun stuff. Building Lego. That's like we built our first Lego set together. Like it was just such a fun time. And so I've been chasing that same feeling, and like it's great that this game has come out when it's come out, because when we did all that was around Easter. And so it's like now we're back, and it's like what, 2 or 3 years later, 4 years later 4 years later, and it's like we're having this moment, we get to have this moment again. And now we have the excitement of like we have a little baby on the way. It's like it's just like a time
comparing
warp.
life from then to now.
You're like, whoa. 4 years ago our lives were like, we were just figuring out how we felt about each other, and now look at where we're at.
It's cool. It's really cool.
And the game is super fun, like I said. So
yeah, it's a great game to play with your partner. It's a great game to play with a friend if you don't have a partner to play with, or a partner that wants to play it with you. But highly recommend. It's a ton of fun.
Can someone play if they're a single player?
No, like you literally need to play it with somebody else.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope they keep making co-op games.
Yeah, I hope so too. The video that I watched, he said like co-op is probably always kind of be like at the heart of what they do, but that doesn't necessarily mean like every game they ever make ever is going to be co-op. Like anything new that they make, they just want it to feel like them.
Yeah.
But right now their big thing is like they make
like
these
I feel like they're like the leaders.
So great.
The leaders in. I mean, I don't know all co-op games out there, but it feels like they're just like very innovative.
It's innovative in that like it's not that the gameplay systems themselves are things that you've never done before, but it's like they can kind of jam pack so many different types of gameplay systems that kind of constantly change because you're doing it with somebody else, because it's like it's like here's a new problem to solve together, and now you get to just do it, and it's like it's creating problems to solve in the forms of like how would you solve that with these skills, gameplay mechanics with this skill set that you have to now adapt to. It's just like genius. Whereas like a normal game would be, I guess, like more repetitive of just doing the same thing, but like doing the same thing really well, whereas this game is like constantly changing things up, and it's for two people, which is like I think a perfect way to keep two people engaged for 15 hours.
And I mean, like it's like fun too, because they constantly are changing your scenery. And so then, like you said, it like changes the skill that you have. And then like you jump into a new scene and it's completely different. And now you have this like new cool weapon or something. And you're like, wow, I have this new cool sword or whatever. And how does it work? And you're just kind of figuring it out.
And they're really good about putting like a lot of details in the environment, or like side things that you don't even have to do if you don't want to. But like, you just want to experience everything that the game has to offer you, because it's like, you're making the fullest amount of this experience that you get to have together with somebody else.
So shout outs to them. I expect another one in 4 years. We're not even done. We just started this one, but I want another one. And I like that it's fiction, like it's literature based.
It's about, one person is a sci-fi writer, the other person's a fantasy writer. So you're constantly switching between the two different types of genres, but like different stories within those genres. It's great. It's great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Anything else?
Nope. That's pretty much it for me.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, on my end, I mean, since we're already talking about split fiction, I'll just kind of wrap up the video game talk with last episode we recorded. I was like, oh, I've just started playing Devil May Cry 4, which I've finished since then, and it was fine. Not my favorite of the franchise. It's interesting because I can see where the gameplay of Devil May Cry 5 evolved from Devil May Cry 4. It just feels like, Devil May Cry 4 had to walk so that Devil May Cry 5 could run, basically. But that, yeah, it's not my favorite. It's definitely like if purely from a gameplay sense, like if I had to pick a one to play forever that was not Devil May Cry 5, I would probably pick 4 just because the gameplay is a bit more like evolved, but I still like Devil May Cry 3 just as a whole package more than I like Devil May Cry 4. And then everything's better than Devil May Cry 2. But I say like, oh yeah, don't you know that? Listen, no, like, all right, Devil May Cry 2 is the worst one. It's just bad. But after I finished Devil May Cry 4, before I could move on to Devil May Cry 5, I decided to play DMC Devil May Cry, which is a reboot. I don't know if it's a remake. That's not the right word, but it's more like a reboot that happened between 4 and 5, where a different company called Ninja Theory made their own kind of reboot spin-off of Devil May Cry that they now are currently known as like the Hellblade studio. So they make like Senua's Sacrifice and then Hellblade Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2 Senua's Saga. But back in 2013, they developed this like Devil May Cry game that was just kind of completely different and like so of the time. It's like very emo, kind of punk rock. Like the soundtrack is done by this like death metal band called Combi Christ, which kind of tells you like a lot of what you need to know about the artistic direction of the game. It's just like, it's like, let's take Devil May Cry, which is kind of this like gothic demonic style of like, this guy who is a demon hunter and like wears a red trench coat and like has 2 guns and a big sword. And then let's turn him into like just a degenerate like punk rock dude who wears like a wife beater and a black trench coat and still has like the sword and the guns, but now he's got like, instead of long white hair, he's got like short black hair, and he like listens to metal music exclusively, and has like way less of a personality and is just like overall unlikable. And then just kind of like ran it through like a Mountain Dew filter. Like that's
What?
like that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like playing DMC Devil May Cry. But it was also my first Devil May Cry game that came out when I was like 18 years old. So, or 19 years old. So like it was my first experience with the series, and like since then I've always kind of remembered it like fondly from the gameplay experience, but like the community itself is always kind of like clowning on it. So I was going into playing it, I was kind of like, oh, like this could be bad. But then I started playing it and I remembered like how much fun I found it and like why I was like a fan of Devil May Cry going into when I played Devil May Cry 5, because like this game was really well done in the gameplay department. It's just like got zero charm from the character department. And like, but the story is like more developed than your typical Devil May Cry game. Like it actually like gives you exposition into like the story of like what's going on and who the characters are and what the relationships are. Whereas like Devil May Cry doesn't actually really do that a whole lot. It's kind of like their backstories are like vague in the typical games. So like I'll give it some credit. Like it's, as far as like playing it, it's very fun. Like I felt very nostalgic and I actually really enjoyed it, and I finished it in like 4 sittings. And yeah, like I would gladly like play that game again. It's just like when you play it, the dialogue is like so cringe. The art direction, like the here's the thing, like the art direction is kind of like misguided. It's like cringe and so of the time, but it's also done at an extremely high level. Like the level design is so well done in that game. The environment design is so well done in that game. It's just like all being done in this game that people don't regard highly because it's kind of like the ugly stepchild of the Devil May Cry franchise. Um, yeah. And then they pivoted, like the Capcom is the creators of Devil May Cry. They published that reboot back in 2013, but then they developed themselves Devil May Cry 5, kind of went back to the original series, original direction of everything, and created this like incredible AAA game of Devil May Cry 5 back in 2019. And I started it yesterday morning. This would be like the fourth or fifth time that I've actually played this game, because it's like what's probably one of my favorite action games. It's just so, I think, like I always found Devil May Cry 5 fun. Like when it came out, I loved it. I played it twice when it came out. Then a few years later, I think 2022 or 2023, I played it again. I think I played it twice back then as well and enjoyed it just as much. And now it's 2025 and I'm playing it like once again. And I enjoyed it those times, but now that I've gone through and played every installment of this game, like of this game franchise, and kind of like gotten a lot of like reps in, gotten a lot of practice in, and like my like evolved with it, I guess, like as the mechanics have kind of come out, I've like played them and mastered them, and then now when I'm doing those same mechanics in the next installment, I like have those things down, and then I just have to master like the new stuff. So now that I'm playing Devil May Cry 5, I'm like much better at it than the other times that I've played Devil May Cry 5. And so I'm playing it like at a higher difficulty, and I'm finding myself like doing really well. So, which just feels good as a gameplay experience. Yeah, I'm like really, really into Devil May Cry clearly right now. I have been for the last like 3 or 4 months, but I'm just so stoked that I'm now at Devil May Cry 5 after like this long process of playing through all of them, like most of which I had never played before, and now I've got this like newfound appreciation for a game that I already loved, and I'm like, I just get like jazzed up thinking about it. Like I can string together combos in my head just because I know the combat system so well. Yeah, it's great. Love it. Play Devil May Cry 5. More people. I'm actually like shocked when I look at, I have like a few friends that play PlayStation that I'm like friends with, and when you go to play a game, it tells you like what of your other friends like own this game or have played this game. And most games I feel like I play, somebody else I know has also played it, or at least like sometimes it's like 5 people have already played it, or like like Helldivers or something, like 10 people on my friends list have played Helldivers. And when I go to play Devil May Cry 5, it's like one random guy that I met at community college is the only other person on my friends list that's played Devil May Cry 5. And it's like, it makes me so sad because it's such a good game that I feel like nobody's played. Like nobody I know in my personal life has played Devil May Cry 5, and that makes me sad. Yeah, because it's so good. It's so good. Anyway, I will die on that hill. So let me move on. So, other devil-related content.
Yikes.
The new Daredevil show, Daredevil Born Again, came out. The first 2 episodes came out this week on Disney Plus. I haven't started it yet, but because I never finished the third season of the like Netflix Daredevil show, so I started watching it about a week ago. It's like 13 episode season. I'm like on episode 9 now, and it is really good. I'm like, I can't believe I waited so long to watch it, because now that I am watching it, I'm so invested in what's going on, and the story is, I think it's like better than the other 2 seasons were. I mean, granted, like that was like 8 years ago when I watched those other 2 seasons, but maybe even longer than that, like 10 years ago when I watched those other 2 seasons. But it's like genuinely better. I think it's like it feels more focused on like the villains and side characters that you actually watch Daredevil for. So I'm like really into it, and hoping to finish that soon so I can kind of pick up on the new show with everybody else. On the topic of Marvel, we actually didn't talk about this in our last episode, because we went and saw it the next day, but we watched Captain America Brave New World at a theater.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I had extremely low expectations, and yeah, it was pretty on par. To be honest, it was kind of whatever. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know, we've kind of talked about this, about just like movies in general. They're like giving away the movie in the trailer, and then it has much less impact when you're actually watching the movie. Like, you know, seeing the Red Hulk, it's like, okay, well, we've seen him in the trailer, so like there's nothing in this movie that's kind of shocking me.
Yeah, it's so disappointing when you watch a trailer, especially for Marvel movies. I feel like they do this a lot. You watch a trailer, and you watch a trailer and you're like, oh, I know what to expect. Like, I know to expect like Red Hulk's going to be in this movie. But then when you actually watch the movie, it's like the movie is treating Red Hulk like it's this twist at the end of the movie. Like you like as if you don't know it's going to happen, so that when it does happen, you're like, oh snap, Red Hulk. But it's like already shown it to you in the trailer. And I think Batman versus Superman did that with Doomsday.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's so disappointing when a big blockbuster movie like that does that, where it's like they need to show you the twist character to convince you to go watch the movie.
Yeah. Which makes no sense.
It was a letdown.
And I feel like one of the biggest things about, which I'm actually not thinking about, I'm very curious of how like Marvel's going to proceed with the content that they make, because the only thing that was really compelling me in terms of like an interest in Sam as Captain America was because in the show, like when I first heard, like before the show even came out, and like it was like, okay, Sam's going to take over Captain America or whatever, I was like mind boggling, because I was like, what, like Captain America, the face of America, is going to be a black man. Like, that's pretty insane. I hope they say something about that, because like, just given, you know, the history of America, I won't even say the history of America, because it's still present day, but just given like where we're at as a country in terms of like race and things like that, race, ethnicity, whatever, it's just like I was like, it has to be brought up, like that you just can't create this character like this, or like transition this character to represent this thing that is like, it just made no sense to me. And so then when we had the show and it talks about that, and I really enjoyed that aspect of the show. Now the show's not my like favorite Marvel show that's come out, but I really enjoyed that they went there, and I was like, oh, they're doing it, like they're diving into it, and I really appreciate that, especially with his like Sam's friend too. And so for this movie, I was like, okay, let's see the progression of where that left off, because I think it's so important. And they just really did not. They didn't go. It's like they were like, oh, let's take a step back. Like, actually, you know, we don't really want to go there. And that was very disappointing to me, because one, I have no interest in these characters at all, unless we're going to have that, you know, hard conversation about what this represents. And so for them to kind of just backtrack was just like, okay, so I really just like, I don't need this. I don't there was no point in all this.
Yeah, there was really no like character focused drama going on in this movie. It really was just like, hey, we have these loose threads. Let's just like tie them up, and it was filler.
Yeah. But like not even good filler.
Not good filler. Like let's tie up loose ends on things that nobody cares about.
Yeah, it's like, why are we even doing it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very curious.
Like they're balancing the checkbook on the universe, you know?
Yeah, I'm very curious to see, because I feel like what Marvel was beginning to do or starting to do or wanting to do was like, let's bring much more diversity into the characters, the different superheroes we see, into like the whole universe. And I think with like kind of where we're at right now in society, a lot of companies are backtracking on that kind of focus, like a DEI focus, which is very upsetting. But I'm like, okay, now you have Disney, who's this like powerhouse. How are the decisions now being made in terms of where this universe goes over the next few years? So I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and find out.
Yeah.
I don't I mean, like, Marvel itself as a universe, as a property, as like a franchise, a comic, its own comics history has always kind of had a little bit of like a commentary on the present day.
Yeah.
Like the X-Men, when they were created, that was a commentary on civil rights.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing, I think, is so embedded in like Marvel's original DNA that I would like to see them lean into that where possible. And then this movie had that opportunity,
and it didn't take it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like I don't know. A part of me is just, and I feel like I'm just, especially right now, just very pessimistic about anything that's like run by people with money. I'm just very pessimistic about it. And so it's like, it's having this movie, which granted they were working on it probably before the election happened and things like that, but I'm just like, to see this movie where like there was such a great opportunity to do that, like it's like the prime opportunity to do that, to really dig your heels in and like get in the weeds of things, and they just completely did not take it.
Yeah, when Martin Scorsese said that Marvel movies were not cinema and that they were just kind of like roller coasters, basically, popcorn flicks, but like it's like a Disney ride.
Yeah.
I disagreed with him at the time, but now watching this, I'm like, this really isn't like cinema. Like this is just, this is just like popcorn. Like there's nothing. Like Sam's character has like no struggle on his own. It's just like, I'm Captain America, so I need to be the person involved with this conflict, and like he's just cracking jokes the whole time, and he's got his new sidekick, and they're like, haha, like let's get drunk and like make jokes while we fly around. It's like, I don't know, man, like you're not Spider-Man.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just like, yeah, I'm so over Marvel, to be honest. Like I just have no interest in it anymore. I'm just so over superheroes. Like I'm just tired of it. It's all, no matter who's doing it, who's the director or whatever, it just all feels so done. We've done it. We've done it all. We've seen it all. Nothing, visually, nothing is throwing me, like nothing's surprising me, like storyline wise, nothing. I don't feel connected to really the stories anymore. Right. Like nothing is drawing me in.
Right. I mean, we always kind of had the expectation of like, there's going to be a new Avengers movie, and Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, the Hulk, at minimum, are going to be there. And like Black Widow and Hawkeye, maybe they'll be there too. And like, you always kind of knew we were going to lead to something that had those guys involved, and then also had all of the new heroes involved too. And now it's like, all right, well, that original gang is pretty much gone. Like pretty much all of their characters, except for like Thor and Hulk, who like and Hawkeye, like who's like all of them, their most recent loose ends are incredibly uninteresting.
Yeah.
So, you bring them back and it's like, okay, yeah, like Hulk has a random new son, and Thor, I don't know, wasted a whole movie. And
but even the new character, the new generation,
that's the thing, the new characters aren't giving us anything to be excited about. Like they themselves are like not interesting, because all of them were created in this era of surplus, where it was just like put out as much content as possible, because they were trying to sustain their movie schedule while also trying to maintain this like Disney Plus schedule, because Disney Plus was like the new platform, and they felt all this pressure to create this new content for television. And some of that has come out well, and some of that hasn't. Like the stuff, the best Marvel television stuff has been focused on like the ground level stories of the universe, like not focused on the cosmic threats or whatever. And those that have tried to kind of take on those bigger threats have just been like total duds.
It's like I'm like, I don't even have words. I feel like it's like this new generation, it feels so disorganized. Like it feels like they're going off the cuff. Like they don't even know what they're doing. And I feel like before it was very clear, the through line. So you introduce I think about like the introduction of T'Challa. It made total sense why he was being introduced, where he was going to show up next, like what his role would be, as we continue to the big threat. I feel like it was pretty clear. But then I feel like now these like new generation of characters, one, there's a million of them. Two, I can barely remember half their movies. Three, it's like I'm not seeing the threat. I'm not able to picture everyone coming together. Like to me, that makes no sense, and it would be absolute chaos in the worst way possible.
Right.
And it's like, even like, because I feel like the way that we kind of start to make the connections is like through like the end credit scenes, where something happens and you're like, oh snap, like this is where this is gonna go, like this is where I think you can like theorize of like, I think this is gonna happen. And I feel like even the end credit scenes of these like the movies and stuff that have come out, you're like, why did I even wait for the credits to be over? Like this was pointless.
It used to be like, oh, here's an end credit scene that is setting up the next Avengers movie or something. And you'd be like, ooh, what's gonna happen there? And that was fun. Now it's like, here's an end credit scene or like here's a loose end from the end of the Eternals, and we're gonna tie that up in the next Captain America movie. And while we're at it, we're gonna tie up things from the Incredible Hulk, which a lot of people didn't even realize was in the same universe.
Exactly. And it's like, I don't care about either of those.
Right.
It's like, I forgot Eternals. I always forget Eternals even came out. I'm like, oh yeah, that was a movie that existed.
Yeah, so it's struggling. It's just it used to be on a very straight path. And now it's like the multiverse.
They got too ambitious.
It's gotten too ambitious, and it's branched into a million directions, and now there's a million story threads, many of which feel like they'll never be resolved. And so in that regard, like, it was kind of smart for them to tie up loose ends from two different things in one movie. Like, if they're like, and it's kind of like this ugly, like, they have to do some housekeeping on like, okay, we've got like 24 open story threads. Now let's spend the next, I don't know, 8 movies paring down the story threads. Like let's combine 3 of them into one movie and see what we can do, just so we can clean this up, so that eventually the movies will be better. Like, that's what it feels like.
But it's like, I don't have the energy. Like, I just can't. I'm so bored with it. I will say the only thing that's like making me somewhat interested and like keep my little foot into Marvel is Fantastic Four.
Yeah. Because it's a whole fresh new universe. The stakes are completely different.
Exactly. And it's like I kind of just want to go back to that. Like I don't want a connected universe at this point. I don't want a connected universe. I want pieces, just pieces, doing your own thing. I don't need it to lead to a grand big battle. Just give me good solid pieces. Yeah. I'm like, it's ridiculous.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I just miss the era of like character focused drama when it came to Marvel movies. I mean, like you watch Iron Man 1, 2, and 3, and he's kind of got like his own internal struggle that he's grappling with in each movie. Even in the first Captain America, like the first 3 Captain America movies, it's like Cap has something that he has to contend with. And
it just had more emotion.
It had more emotion. Then you watch Captain America 4 with Sam Wilson, and he's just like, oh, there's a bad guy. Boom, boom. Let me go shoot this. Bang, bang. And let's sell some freaking action figures. Hell yeah. And that's just what it felt like. It was so stupid. I hated it.
Yeah.
Like you said, like your expectations were extremely low. My expectations were just low, and they weren't met. I was actually baffled the whole time I was watching the movie. I just genuinely didn't like it.
I will never forget the like guy who's the new Falcon, because I liked his character. And like he's like talking about, you know, the importance of seeing Sam as Captain America. And he's like, as a guy from Miami, I like superheroes weren't close to me, so I never thought I'd get the opportunity to, you know, like work with a superhero. And I was like, that's it? That's your like
that's all you had to say.
Being from Miami, I'm like, there could have been much more said there.
Miami's far away from New York, so I just didn't get to like see the conflicts happening.
I know. I'm like not like seeing a person of color, like not anything like that. It's like, no. Being away from New York, I never thought I'd get here. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. What are we doing?
Yeah. It wasn't good.
It was not.
It wasn't good.
Before we move on to our actual assignments, I do want to mention we did watch Better Man. Better
Man. Yeah.
Better Man.
I had more stuff to finish.
Oh, my bad.
That's fine. Let's talk about Better Man.
What's the guy's what's his name?
Robbie Williams.
Robbie Williams. I almost called him
not Robin Williams. Robbie Williams.
I almost called him Rodney.
Rodney Williams. I mean, Rodney Mullen. That's a professional skater.
No, it's a biopic about Robbie Williams, but in the movie, he is a CGI monkey.
The whole time.
The whole time. And that movie was so good.
It was really good.
It's such a shame. Like, we tried to find it playing in our theater to like go see it in the theaters, and we could not find it.
It was never playing.
It was like impossible to find it. So
we had to rent it for $10.
Yeah, which like worth it, honestly.
It was worth it. That was a really good movie.
Yeah, we usually don't rent anything unless it's like $4, but
I think it had like some small flaws on kind of like skipping ahead at certain parts of like his story, but like as a whole package, like extremely well done. I'd probably give it like a 4 out of 5.
Just like, I mean, visually it was just
visually it was fantastic.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And see, now that's a character focused story. Granted, you know, biopic.
It's about a man's life,
right? But it was very focused on like
his
struggles, his feelings, his emotions, like the different parts of his journey, and like the different phases of his life. It's like you've got this CGI monkey wearing these specific outfits at different phases of his life, and those outfits are like outfits that he actually wore in real life. Mm-hmm. Like you see pictures in the end credits of like, oh yeah, this time, like remember when he was wearing a red tracksuit like as a monkey? Well, here's a picture of him wearing it in real life. Yeah.
It works.
And it works really well.
Yeah. And like, we watched an episode of Corridor Crew where they were talking about like emotion on like monkey faces. Like how like, you know, you watch Planet of the Apes and stuff and you really see the emotion in their face. And I feel like this was a movie that was like that did it like really well of being able to see those emotions, or just like, you know, he's like doing drugs or something and like you can clearly tell, like, I mean, it's a monkey, but you're like, and I don't know, I've never seen a monkey on drugs before.
I know, like,
so like, how do you capture that? And they did it so well.
I know. It's like, it becomes so believable. Like
you forget it's a monkey.
Yeah. Right. You're just
watch it like it's a man.
Yeah, I know. You're like learning about this like monkey that was a rock star. Yeah. And then you're like, wait a minute. Like, in real life, it was actually a guy. But in my head, I'm like
convinced it's the monkey.
You're convinced it's a monkey.
Yeah. I'm like, man, this monkey's had a hard life. It's like, no, it's just a movie.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, you get so lost in it, and it feels like reality to you.
Yeah, that is a great movie. Yeah. I'm sure it'll be streaming somewhere in 6 months. Yeah. So go check it out whenever it is.
Or pay the $10. Worth it, like I said.
It was worth it. Yeah. Well, the only other thing I was going to say was like, while I was watching Daredevil, I finished playing Pokemon Yellow Legacy on my phone. It's just kind of this alternate version of Pokemon Yellow that's like harder. And I really enjoyed it. Yeah, just kind of like happy to be playing a Pokemon game again. But no, I finished it, and now I'm going to keep playing my Fire Red file that I had started around the same time as that same yellow file. So, yeah, I don't know. Life is good when you're playing a little Pokemon on the side. Last thing is that we watched the first episode of Severance after. Oh, yeah. So, like, the two assignments that we have for this week are The Secret Life of Walter Mitty and Nine Queens. And Secret Life of Walter Mitty is a Ben Stiller movie. He also directed it, and lately he's also been working on Severance. So we watched Severance after we watched Walter Mitty, and we've only watched the first episode, but I would say like pretty compelling stuff so far. I think we'll keep watching it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's do a quick double check on who's supposed to go first here, because I'm not sure actually who's supposed to go first. Let's see. Last time was Lady Hawk first, which means
Secret Life of
Walter Mitty's first. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess let's do it.
Go for it.
Okay. So I didn't write anything down.
That's okay. So we're winging it.
We're winging
this
it.
Weekend.
Okay. If you want the one sentence summary, I did write a one sentence summary, and that is: a man travels to the middle of nowhere to find the greatest picture ever for the job that's laying him off.
I mean, that's the whole movie right there.
That is the whole movie right there. So what is the movie actually about? So there's this guy, Walter, played by Ben Stiller, and he is a negative developer or coordinator, whatever, negative asset manager, I think it is,
yeah.
for Life magazine. And Life magazine is like this apparently real magazine. I actually did look that up on my own. But in the movie, like, Life magazine is like where he works, and the negatives are like the pictures that are taken on film by photographers that take pictures for the magazine. And there's this one photographer played by Sean Penn, whose name I forgot. I think the photographer in the movie's name is Sean. But he like basically like some private equity people, I don't know, like somebody buys Life magazine, and they're going to lay a bunch of people off, and they're actually going to end up like closing the magazine. They're going to stop doing the print publication and take it all online because it's, you know, the new digital age. And so the photographer hears that things are basically going downhill at Life, so he sends in kind of his last reel of film, and he says, hey, -25 is the best picture I've ever taken. Please consider it for the final cover of the final print issue of Life magazine. And turns out -25 isn't there. Walter cannot find it. So he's like, what am I supposed to do? Well, he's like afraid that if he doesn't find it, he is going to lose his job. So he basically, and he has a crush on his coworker Kristen Wiig, and she's kind of like, why don't you just go find the guy? So he's like, okay, like I've never really left New York City before, so here I go. Where is he? Greenland.
It's like he could be in New York, just a few blocks away, or he's in Greenland.
Greenland, yeah. So he goes to Greenland looking for him, and basically the movie is about Walter having this like active imagination, be often like daydreaming about the life that he could have as an adventurer, because he kind of like lives vicariously through these photographs that he's always developing for these adventure photographers. So, but he's never really left New York. So this is his opportunity to take an adventure to find this guy. So he goes to Greenland. He ends up like jumping out of a helicopter into the ocean, getting on a boat, then being taken to Iceland, and then like riding a longboard away from a volcano in Iceland, random. Like just to find this guy. And so he just kind of has this like his own little epic adventure in the effort of finding this guy, and doesn't find him and goes back to New York. And it turns out a bunch of people, including Kristen Wiig, got laid off. And so he's like talking to his mom, and his mom is like, oh yeah, that photographer Sean came by. And he's like, what do you mean, Mom? And Sean had also given him this wallet as a gift that has like Life magazine's motto on it and everything. And he's kind of like, I'm never going to find Sean. And he's like so discouraged because he went on this whole adventure and didn't find him. And he's like, he got laid off anyway. And he like throws the wallet away. But then his mom kind of like gives him a tip, because it turns out Sean had visited his mom, which is like, when you're watching the movie, you're like, hey, that's weird, because he and Sean have never actually met, but they had this working relationship through like letters and things, because Walter was always developing Sean's photos, and Sean knew that. So he like appreciated Walter in like many, many ways, even though they never met. And so you find out that he came and visited Walter's mom, and you're like, what the heck? And Walter's mom is like, yeah, he like wanted to know like what your schedule and like how your life is going and all that. And he's like, that is weird. And oh, he's in what, like Nepal or something? Like, let me go find him.
Yeah.
So Walter goes and eventually finds Sean in the middle of nowhere, and Sean's like trying to take a picture of a snow leopard, and then he bumps into him on the top of this mountain. They're secluded in the middle of nowhere. They have a little discussion, and he's like, where's negative 25? And he's like, oh man, like it's in your wallet, homie. Like that wallet I made you, like I put the picture in there. And he's like, what?
He's like, why would you do that?
Why would you do that? Like, not cool, man. And he's like, I threw it away. And he's like, sounds like a you problem.
No, my favorite thing is he was like, oh, I thought it'd be cute. Like, he was like, I thought it'd be like a cute little thing to do.
Right.
Like, kind of fun. He was like, I wrote you this message. I thought that was clear. He was like, no.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was like, it's I
don't know. Like, it's
something like it's in
your hands.
In your hands,
like that,
yeah. And he's like, I thought you meant like metaphorically. And he's like, no, I meant like literally. It was in your hands. Yeah. It was with you or something. Yeah. So yeah, then he like sees the snow leopard that he's waiting to take a picture of, but then he's like, he doesn't take a picture, and he's like, sometimes I just like to live in the moment and I don't want to take a picture. You know, I'm like, okay. But then they go and play some pickup soccer. He goes back to New York, and it turns out his mom is like, saw you try to throw this wallet away, idiot.
I know, thank God for his mom.
Yeah, and then he like finds the picture in the wallet. He takes it to the executives, which like the main executive is played by Adam Scott, and he like plays the perfect butthead in this movie. But so Walter takes the negative back to Adam Scott, and it's like at this point Walter's character has like developed, right? Like he's much more confident. He's like gone on these adventures, and he's like, you know, I've been laid off from this place, but I still came back and I brought this picture, and like I'm just gonna figure out like what's next for my life, because you know, as much as I loved this job in this magazine, I'm like prepared to kind of like take the next step and kind of take off with whatever it is that I want to do next. So he like doesn't even look at what the negative looks like, and he just gives it to them, and then they end up printing it, and it goes on the cover of the magazine, and it turns out the picture was of Walter. It was like Sean had kind of talked to Walter's mom about what Walter's schedule was like, because Sean took this excellent photograph of Walter reviewing the negatives, like sitting outside the Life magazine building, like eating a bagel or something. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of this message of like, you know, the final issue by the people who like made Life magazine what it is, and it's like this ode to Walter basically. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful photograph. And then so that, you know, that chapter of Walter's life is done, and now you know, he's got a crush on Kristen Wiig, and you know, she seems down, and you know, they're gonna explore that a little bit and roll the credits. That's the movie.
Oh my gosh, silly. Well, what'd you think?
I mean, I thought it was great. When I saw the trailer for this movie like 12, 13 years ago, I was like, oh, I really want to watch that movie. And I never did. And I feel like when I watched the trailer even, I felt like inspired to travel.
Yeah.
And
it's a beautiful movie.
It is beautiful. And I never saw the movie. I never traveled.
Maybe if you had seen the movie, you would have traveled.
I know. Like one of the first things I had like say in my saved for later section on Amazon when I first like made an Amazon account was this book called like Vagabonding, which was like all about basically like traveling on a budget.
Yeah.
And I was like so into that idea, and I feel like it was just from watching the trailer of this movie, and then I like never did that and I also like never watched the movie. So it was nice to finally watch the movie and like, you know, absorb its message.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I like the idea of, you know, even if life seems scary or like you feel like you're gonna lose your job or whatever, like the world is so much bigger than just that one job, and there's so much life to be lived out there, regardless of like what your circumstances are, and work and money are not everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good message.
Yeah.
But also, like, appreciate the people who are the ones doing the work at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Solid.
Yeah.
Nice. Anything else?
That's it.
Got you. I don't really have much facts for this movie, but it's based on a 1939 book by an author named Jason Thurber. And there's another movie that came out in 1947, also called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which I guess is also maybe inspired by this book. I don't know for sure. And I guess this movie with Ben Stiller is kind of like a remake of that movie, but they're two very different movies. Like the plots, they don't seem aligned at all, to be honest. So I feel like an adaptation loosely. So that's kind of the origin of the story. Another fact is that, so in the movie, there's this like drunk helicopter pilot and he's at the bar and he jokes that there's like 8 people in Greenland. He like is having girlfriend troubles. Like his girlfriend breaks up with him.
He's like, don't cheat on your girlfriend when there's
only 8 people that live in the place. And so when Walter goes to Greenland, he only sees 8 different people.
Oh, that's funny.
I thought that was cute. And then the last fact really is that all the Greenland shots were actually shot in Iceland.
I believe it. It looked like Iceland.
How do you know what Iceland looks like if you've never been?
I've seen pictures of Iceland, and I've never seen pictures of people in Greenland. I'll tell you that.
I mean, Greenland's just a bunch of ice, isn't it?
Yeah. That's why I was like, sus. One thing I forgot to mention about the movie is that every time Walter is having a daydream, it turns into this like massive CGI spectacle.
Yeah.
For all of like a minute tops.
Yeah.
And that was also kind of fun. They like added a little extra energy to the movie.
Gave it a little bit more levity.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay, but I do have a question for you.
Okay.
If you were to go on your own epic journey to one day tell your kids and grandkids about, what would you want it to be?
God. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I would just like to spend any amount of time in another country, like living somewhere, developing relationships along the way. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know like what the right kind of place would be for that. I mean, like I've always wanted to visit Italy. I've always wanted to visit Japan, but I don't know, when I think of like the existential adventure that Walter went on in this movie, and compare it to like what I would get out of going to those places, it doesn't really feel the same.
I mean, it doesn't even just have to be like going to a place. It could be like, I want to climb Mount Everest. I would climb Mount Everest and talk about that experience, or I would jump out of a plane to the Great Barrier Reef or whatever, something like that.
Right. Okay. I mean, I would like to climb a mountain. That would be cool.
Yeah.
I'd like to climb El Capitan. That would be fun. With a rope.
Please.
Yeah. Not none of that Alex Honnold free solo stuff. I mean, something like that. I don't know. It would be cool to visit a Nordic country, I think. Like, somewhere up there, like Denmark or Finland or something. Like, I don't know, backpack through Scandinavian countries. And when I say backpack, I don't really mean like camp out, but like, just kind of make my way from one end to the other and just kind of like make friends along the way.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. How about you?
I feel like my epic journey would be more of a food journey. So like one of the reasons why I signed us up for a cooking class in Portugal with a private chef is because I just like really wanted to like learn the like food from that culture, but then also just like, I don't know, I just really enjoy that like one-on-one learning something from somebody. And so like I feel like I would want to, kind of like you said, of like backpacking, but it'd be like, I go to Italy and I learn like pasta making and get all this experience with, these different people who make pasta, and then like, I don't know, over to Portugal, learn more from like local people there, local chefs there about how to make stuff, and then hop over to, I don't know, Spain or something, and just like hop around Europe learning different cuisine. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be Europe either. I could go to Japan or whatever and learn whatever, but I like the idea of like a food journey. Like
learning food.
Yeah.
Not just eating it, but
not
like
just eating
learning
it, but like learning how to make it. Yeah.
That would be really cool. If I were to do that, I would do it through Japan.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's so many different types of food I would love to learn how to make. So it's like, I kind of want to do it all.
I mean, I love pasta, but I don't think I like the idea of making pasta. I mean, I like the idea of making pasta, but like for that to be the only thing that I'm making, that is not as appealing to me. But if I was like, I don't know, slicing open fish or like making egg dishes in really cool ways, that would be cool. And that's why I would like to go to Japan for that.
But I feel like the cool thing about like what makes Europe great too is I feel like there's a lot of people who like migrate to Europe from different cultures, and so there's probably like opportunities to learn different types of cuisine even within Europe. And you like don't necessarily have to go to like the other, I mean, obviously it'd be cool
you could just go to France and learn all the fancy ways too.
I mean, pastries. Like I would go to France, learn like pastries, like how to make pastries and things like that. How do I make a croissant? I don't know.
A croissant.
I don't know. Somebody teach me how to make a croissant.
Yeah. No, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's a cool thought experiment. yeah, traveling through Scandinavian countries was never really on my radar until just now.
I just want to go to. I don't like. What are the Scandinavian? What's all considered Scandinavian?
Finland, Denmark, Norway. There might be more to it, but that's kind of.
So Switzerland's not Scandinavian.
No, that's like in the middle of Europe.
Got you. I like literally don't ever know where Switzerland is. Like I have no idea in my mind where the heck Switzerland is.
Let me search this up. Scandinavian countries. Scandinavian countries. Most commonly refers to Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. Sweden. I always forget Sweden.
Yeah.
Yeah, Switzerland, Sweden, Scotland. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be cool to go to Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland.
I want to go to a Scandinavian country during like Christmas time. I want to do a cold vacation. I love a good cold vacation. I want to do a cold vacation to one of those places because I bet it's beautiful.
A cold vacation?
Yeah.
I mean, they're like cold all year round.
I categorize my vacations as cold vacations or hot vacations.
For sure.
So anytime I'm like, oh, I'm going to plan a trip, I go, do I want cold or do I want hot?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's everything I had on this movie.
Cool. Same. All right. Well, I can jump into the next.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
So I was assigned the movie Nine Queens, which came out in 2000. And I also did not take notes on this movie, so I'm going to make it real brief. But basically, this is a story about two kind of like con artists. Think of like Focus. So there's one.
Yeah, Focus with Margot Robbie and Will Smith. That Focus.
Yes. So there's
episode 4 of Content Swap podcast.
Really?
I think
4. Wow.
I don't know if it was 4. I would need to double check that.
Yeah.
But one of our earliest episodes. Let's see. Not 4. It was episode 8.
Wow.
We did Focus and Worth It.
Wow.
Yeah.
Speaking of food.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's about two kind of con artists one named Juan, one named Marcos. And at the beginning of the movie, Juan is kind of like trying to pull this swindle on these like gas station clerks, these women who work at a gas station or convenience store. And he gets caught. And so Marcos happens to be in the convenience store as well and pretends like he's like undercover police and is taking away Juan and like trying to get him, and so he takes Juan. The convenience store people believe that Marcos is this police officer, and then Marcos is like, actually I'm not a police officer, to Juan, and was like, I saw what you did there. And basically is like, I'm a con artist too. Yep. So the two of them, I don't remember how this kind of came about, but Juan basically tells Marcos that he needs money for his father to like help his father out. I think his father was like, was he in jail or something? He was like,
his father had debts and now he like needs to pay off his father's debts as well or something.
Yeah, something like that. He's like, I need a bunch of money to pay off my dad's debts. I have like 50,000 or something right now, but I need more.
Yeah.
And so Marcos is like, okay, cool. Let's team up and let's do this big swindle. And so he basically knows a guy who has something called the 9 Queens, which is like a thing of stamps.
It's like a stamp. I guess they're like discontinued. Yeah, it's like a collection of stamps that's like discontinued.
Yeah, and they're worth like a ton of money.
Like a ton of money.
But the 9 Queens that he picks up from his friend are not they're counterfeit.
They're supposed to be counterfeit.
Yeah, they're supposed to be counterfeit. And so, but he's like, we can convince, this rich, wealthy guy who's staying at the hotel that my sister works at. We can convince him to buy these stamps.
Okay, well, all right. Here, they they go to that hotel because his sister basically contacted him to be like, hey, your old like mentor basically is here, and he is like trying to run some heist, but come pick him up or whatever. He goes to his old mentor. His old mentor is like, he's like, hey Marcos, like basically here's what's going on. Like I've got these super rare stamps from like my female friend or whatever, and there's this guy who's staying at this hotel right now who is a stamp collector who I could sell these things to, but I'm like sick right now and I can't do it. So then Marcos is like, sweet, score of the century, I'll do it, and your cut is 10% or something.
So Juan and Marcos are now on this journey to sell the stamps to the rich guy.
Oh, but the stamps that he got are counterfeit.
Yes.
Because the original stamps are with his female friend, but he copied them perfectly.
Yeah. So he goes to the rich guy, shows the stamps. The rich guy is like, let me get my like person who can verify these are real to verify they're real. The guy verifies and says, yep, these are real. These are worth all this money. And so then the rich guy's like, okay, cool, I'll give you all $450,000 for these stamps or whatever.
I don't know if it was that much, but it was like
it
was up there.
Yeah. He's like, I'll give you all this money for these stamps, but you need to come back, you need to bring these back later today. So they're like, cool, dope. They leave, and the guy who said like these are authentic meets them and is like, I know those are counterfeit. If you don't want me to tell them, the rich man, cut me in. So they're like, fine, cut you in. Well, then they go for like a walk or whatever. They're all excited. They're like, we have all this money, woo. And
I mean, they haven't even sold them yet.
Right. Well, but they're going to have all this money. And these two people on a motorcycle ride up and steal the stamps. And they're like, no. So they go running after the people on the motorcycle. People on the motorcycle throw the stamps, they open the little briefcase. They're like, nothing in here. Throw the stamps, and it lands in the water. And because they're counterfeit, they just dissolve.
I mean, they're just like ruined.
Yeah, it just like is nothing. So then they're like, no. So they're like, we have to go back. We have to go to to the lady who has the like real ones.
Yeah, we have to go to the female friend that had the real ones.
Yeah, we need to convince her to let us have those to sell to this guy, and we'll cut her percentage or whatever. And so, yeah, they go and they do that, and the woman's like, I'm not giving you these stamps. I know how much they're worth. Whatever. And so, but she's like, I want money now. So Juan and Marcos are like talking to each other, and he's like, Marcos is like, you have 50,000. That's for your dad. I have some money. I have 200,000 or whatever. I'm going to take my money. You take your money. We'll put it together. We'll offer it to this woman, and then she'll give us the stamps, and then we'll still make a profit essentially. And so Juan's like, you know what? He was like very hesitant. He's like, you know what? Fine. They put their money together. They go to the woman, they get the stamps, and then they go back to the hotel to meet the rich guy. But the rich guy is like, I want to sleep with your sister. Like, if you want to make this deal, let me sleep with your sister. And so
I forgot about that.
Yeah. And so he's like, he goes to his sister, he's like, take one for the team. I'll cut you in or whatever. I don't know what he says.
Yeah.
He's just like, take one for the team. And so she's like, fine, whatever. And so then she meets up with the rich guy. Like a whole night passes, and they like sleep in like the hotel lobby essentially. She comes down and she is like, here's your money, and it's a check. And he's like, you were supposed to get cash. She's like, I'm done with your shenanigans. I don't care. It's your problem. Here's a check. That's all he left. So he's like, okay, well, I can take this I have a friend who works at the bank. Marco says this. I have a friend who works at the bank, and like, we'll take the check to him or whatever. They go to the bank, and there's a whole issue with the bank. Like, the bank shut down because people, I don't know,
the stock market crashed or something. Yeah.
And so his check is worthless, and he's left with nothing. And it's like this whole big thing. And Juan's like, this was the worst time of my life. I'm leaving. We're done. Like, you've lost me 50K or whatever. And so what happens from there?
It turns out,
Well-
like, Juan just kind of leaves, and Marcos is like, I've got no money. And Juan is like, Juan just kind of walks off, and they part ways. And then when Juan kind of walks into this, like, warehouse garage place,
Yeah.
and basically every single person that
Yeah.
they met in the last, like, 2 days
Yeah.
is all sitting around a table
Yeah.
playing poker.
Yeah.
And it turns
it's like
out
Juan was working with them to con Marcos.
Yeah, it turns out it was all fake.
So it was just to get the 200K that he
Yeah.
had.
So
yeah, okay. I was trying to figure out. I was like, where did they get money though?
There's kind of like this whole backstory with, like, because Juan and his sister have a strained relationship.
Yeah.
And his little brother also works at the hotel.
Yeah, and they got, like, an
their
inheritance.
parents, yeah, they got an inheritance from their parents, but Marcos. Every time I just said Juan in the last, like, 2 minutes, replaced with Marcos. Marcos's sister,
Yeah.
and his little brother are working at the hotel.
Yeah.
And when their parents passed away, Marcos basically took all of their inheritance.
Yeah.
And so it kind of seemed like that inheritance was basically what he used to, quote unquote, buy the real 9 queens.
Yeah.
To pull off, like, getting a profit. But, it turns out, like, the 9 queens were never even real, and that this was all just a ploy to basically get his inheritance money back from him, and then split it between everybody who was involved in the heist, which includes his old mentor, which includes, like, the female friend, includes the people on the bike,
sister.
includes the person who bought the stamps. The sister was in on it. Everybody was in on it. Except for Marcos.
And so that's how it ends. And this is I feel like,
now that sounded like a great twist, right?
I guessed the twist, like, I feel like 15 minutes into the movie. Immediately.
As soon as there was opportunity.
As soon as we met the mentor, I said, oh, Juan's working with the mentor, like, working with the guy.
Like, you're like, how crazy would it be if it turns out he was working with the mentor to just con him? And I was like, you have, like, no context clues. You don't even know.
Juan
like,
has said, like, few words.
I know. Yeah, Juan's barely said anything. Marcos hasn't even indicated that he has money to get conned out of, and you just guessed the end of the movie. I was so mad, but I didn't tell you. I didn't tell you that.
In the moment,
I kept my cool.
In the moment, you were like, "Well, what makes you think that? Like, why would that be the case?" And I was like, "Listen, if this happened," like, it was just so funny. And then even after that, as soon as we meet the sister, I also said, "Oh, Juan and the sister are getting together." Like, I was they're together.
The movie does kind of.
It does. It kind
of
like
movie's
tries
less
to get
obvious
you
about. Their potential relationship.
But they don't. So,
or more
like,
obvious.
This is supposed to be like Juan's first meeting of her, and Marcos asked her, like, "Are you dating someone?" And she's like, "Yeah, it happened for a year." And I said, "Oh, it's Juan. Like, Juan's the one she's dating," which, they didn't explicitly say. But then we come to the end, and it's like,
turns out it was.
Yeah, he's dating her. He's the boyfriend, and I was right.
I was so annoyed.
You were like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
It was a good twist the first time I watched it. I was like, I had my suspicions about things, but then when that happened, I was like, oh, that was good. Like, everybody was in on it. Like, and it made you think, like, oh yeah, like, every interaction was like, these were not. It was like new people that you were meeting as a result of the people who were untrustworthy from the jump. And like, it was all carefully planted, and like, if you were paying attention, you could see how this could be, a long con, and it cons the audience, which is fun. But yeah, you figured it out before the movie even, like, gave you the opportunity to, like, play the game.
I don't know. I always like to think about, oh, how is this going to end? Like, how is this going to go? And especially with a con movie, there's a bigger con.
Right.
You think one thing's a con, there's a bigger con coming. And so it just made sense. As soon as we met him, I was like, I don't trust this guy.
Yeah.
There's a con that's happening. And so then I was like, they're working together. I just know it. Like, it just made sense in my mind. And then, yeah, we just kept going through it and got to the end. And I was like, all right.
So, like, I don't watch movies trying to, like, figure it out. I try to, like, sit back and be, like, the dumb viewer that just has, like, no idea what's going on and, like, fully absorb the experience that the creators wanted me to have. So I'm not,
because I don't know if I'm right or not. I could be completely wrong.
But like, I don't even guess these things. And when you do guess these things, you're right 99% of the time. And it's so upsetting.
Why is it upsetting though? Because I'm still enjoying it. Like, to me, it's like, I don't know. I just like the idea of, like, I don't know. I enjoy storytelling. And so I'm like, okay, if I were to craft this story, like, that's what's going on in my mind is like, if I were to craft this story, what would I want to happen?
Right.
And it's like, I'd like say these things of like, well, what if this happened? That'd be so cool. That'd be so crazy. And I'm still enjoying them because I don't know what's going to happen at the end.
Right.
And so then I'm enjoying the movie. And then when it confirms what I guessed, then like, that's rewarding to me. Cause it's like, like what I expected happened, and that's what I wanted to happen, and like that's the story that I was looking for.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I was having a conversation with my coworker Ryan, who I know listens to the show, friend of the show, Ryan. Hey Ryan. Hope you're enjoying listening to this episode, Ryan. He and I were having a discussion yesterday about spoilers.
Yeah.
And how, we don't like them. But he made this point about how, sometimes you watch something even knowing how it's supposed to end, and like your fondness for that movie in the long term like doesn't really change.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, that's a good example, or like that makes a lot of sense. Like when I watched Fight Club, I knew what the twist of the end of that movie was, but still when I watched it, like I enjoyed it, and I still hold that movie in like a high regard, despite the fact the first time that I watched it I knew how it was going to end.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like that I think is totally fair. Like you can still enjoy something even if you know how it ends. Like long-term spoilers are not like the worst thing in the world, but I still don't like them. I still prefer to have a spoiler-free experience if I can.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all that matters, all that counts for is the first time you watch something.
Yeah.
Not, the 10th time you watch it.
Yeah. But you know what's crazy? As good as I am at predicting endings to movies, I feel like I'm not good at predicting who the Ghostface killer is in Scream. Like, I feel like I'm actually pretty bad at figuring out like who's behind it, because I feel like
those movies I
talk
think
myself out, because I'm like, it's this person, I'm like, that's too obvious, and then I'm like, okay, let me cycle through everybody, and then it ends up being like the most obvious person.
No, well, okay, maybe in the first Scream movie, but see, the thing about movies like Scream or Knives Out is that it turns out the person, like the whodunit, is like, the movie didn't actually leave you the breadcrumbs to be able to figure it out. Like, I remember feeling that way about both of the Knives Out movies, where it's like, who's behind it? It's actually like, it's not possible for you to figure it out ahead of time. And I think that's kind of to the detriment of those movies. Like, I like a movie like this where you could reasonably figure it out if you're paying attention. Whereas like Knives Out, it's like you don't have the information to figure out who did it or why or how until they're actually revealing it to you. You're not going to have any idea that it turns out, so and so had a twin or what. Like, you're not gonna think of that. But
I feel like you mentioned in this movie, like Nine Queens, like I just saw the character for like 1 second. I was like, oh, what if this was the case? So I feel like I am typically like pretty intuitive in that
Yeah.
sense without needing to like actually like get through the movie to pick, because I feel like I don't pick up on breadcrumbs.
Right.
And so like I feel like pretty, for the most part, I'm like pretty intuitive in that sort of sense. But then like, yeah, for some reason the Scream movies I just like, and I think I just like talk myself out of, I don't know who it could be, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, those movies are like constantly trying to, like, they'll put the actual person in danger,
Yeah.
so that you write them off as like the not
But I
the
never
killer.
write 'em off. That's
But
the
then
thing.
they always end up being the killer at the end of the movie.
But that's the thing. I never, because that's like Scream has a formula.
Yeah.
So I never write off a character who has gotten harmed in some way, because I'm like,
Right.
it doesn't matter. They could still be it.
It's probably that person.
Yeah. But I feel like, I don't know, I'm just like really bad at it.
Yeah. All right. Well, 9 queens. There you have it. Do you want some? Do you have any other things to say?
Nope, that's it. I mean, overall, I really enjoyed it, even though I guessed it. I had
Yeah.
a great time.
Yeah. It's the only like Argentinian movie I've ever seen.
Wow. I was just about to say, where was it? I was
Yeah,
because I
set
forgot
in like
where it was
Buenos
set.
Aires.
Got you.
Yeah. The only other movie I've seen based in Buenos Aires is Starship Troopers.
Oh my gosh.
Which, like,
what
barely
what
even
was City
counts.
of God? Was it City of God? Where is
That was
that?
Rio de Janeiro.
Gotcha.
That's in Brazil. Totally different country. Come on. Different language even. My goodness. What are you doing?
South America.
I know.
I was trying to remember.
I'm just playing with you. Like you think Croatia and Scotland are the same place?
Get out of here.
All right. Anyway, so this movie actually has like a U.S. version and an Indian version, as in like
remix?
yeah, remakes.
Yeah.
So the U.S. version is a movie called Criminal, came out in 2004, starring
that.
John C. Reilly, Diego Luna, and Maggie Gyllenhaal.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, it does sound. It doesn't. I didn't even look it up. It doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
Then the Indian version is called Bluff Master,
Whoa.
which came out in 2005, and it's got Priyanka Chopra in it.
Wow.
Yeah. Let's see some other facts. That's not an interesting fact. I'm going to skip that one. This is included in the 1001 movies you must see before you die, which is a list that's edited by this guy Steven Schneider. And this film's 4K restored version was selected to be in the official selection of Cannes Film Festival in 2024.
Cannes Film Festival?
Cannes, whatever.
Oh, no, I thought you meant Cannes. Like, there's a film festival specifically for Cannes movies.
No, oh. No, sorry,
like,
Cannes.
Cannes Film Festival?
What unpretentious people would call Cannes Film Festival.
I was like, there's a whole festival for Cannes movies? That's awesome.
No. Yeah, and then the other facts are not really interesting. There was one fact about like the wealthy guy in the movie who is actually an Argentinian con man is supposed to be like a Spaniard, but the dialects are so different that it would have been pretty obvious that he wasn't actually from Spain, given how he spoke like an Argentinian person.
Yeah.
Like whatever. All right, let me look up this Criminal movie real quick. I want to know like what do you think?
Sounds familiar.
What do you think IMDb gave this movie out of
10?
10?
I'm gonna give
Like
it
the average, because it's all written by a bunch of people.
I'm gonna give it an 8.3.
You think it was an 8.3?
Yeah.
Wow. No, it was a 7.9. So it's not on like the
Close.
yeah. I mean, an 8.3 would put it like around number 140, like ranked of all time. Maybe like 200.
I mean, it seems like it'd be like a cinephiles like.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely
know.
it's definitely a cinephile movie for sure.
Yeah.
7.9, which is like on the cusp of the top 250. That would probably put it in the top like 400.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's definitely up there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Criminal. I found Criminal. 6.4.
That seems too high.
Not as
and
good.
I haven't even seen this movie.
Yeah. Let me look up Bluffmaster. I say it with such gusto because it has
it's like that's like an intense title.
because it had an exclamation point in the title. 6.6. Anyway,
Interesting.
those are really all the facts on this movie.
Gotcha.
The first time I watched this movie was because my grad school advisor, I was TAing his social psychology class, and he had his students watch this movie for the class because, I mean, like...
I was like, yeah, what was the discussion? Like, what
I forgot.
tied this to social psych?
I mean, it's tied to social psych just in, like, how they talk to each other, how they're kind of, like, playing tricks on each other, and how, like, they say one thing, so therefore it just kind of, like... focuses your attention on this one thing, and it's kind of doing a little bit of sleight of hand, just like conversationally. I don't know. I'm just pulling all of this out of my own butt right now. But like, you know, you can see how like they used social psychology as like con people to fool Marcos in this movie, and to fool you as the audience. Persuasion. Yeah, the art of persuasion. Yeah. So I watched it for the first time then. I thought it was a great movie. I'd never even heard of it, and you know, it's like totally something that my grad school advisor like would like. So,
that's cool. You're watching movies in grad school. We didn't watch no movies.
I mean, it was when I was a TA, so that was, you know, the undergrads.
Oh, gotcha.
It was an undergrad class.
Okay. I thought it was like your grad course.
No.
I mean, like, we did watch a movie in abnormal psych. I hate calling it abnormal psych. Basically, clinical psych class.
Gotcha.
But it was about a psychiatric hospital.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was not fun. It was a documentary.
This movie's like having fun.
Yeah.
Your movie does not sound like
it was
having
like
fun.
A documentary.
Yeah.
Not very fun.
All right, well, shall we move on to our assignments for the next episode?
Sounds good. I feel like we're making good time because we're about to go head to dinner.
We are about to head to dinner. I'm going to let you go first.
Okay. Since the Oscars just happened and Anora swept the Oscars.
Great movie. Oh, yeah. Hey, guys, the Oscars happened.
Yes.
Anora.
Yeah, we watched that.
Sean Baker won in 4 different categories.
Yeah.
That is like, that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Especially for a movie like Anora at the Oscars.
But one person's not supposed to be nominated in like more than one category, right? Like it's supposed to be like the director is this person, the writer is this person, the editor was this person, and the producer was this person. Well, it turns out for Anora,
Sean Baker
all
was
of
everything.
He was all 4 of those things, and he won for all 4 of them.
Which makes him even more deserving because he had 12 jobs.
I know, he crushed
for this
it.
one job.
Crushed it.
But yeah, since Sean Baker swept at the Oscars, I figured I would give you The Florida Project, which was another movie that he directed and was up for an Oscar.
Gotcha. Are you sure you want to give? You've told me like the whole synopsis of this movie.
Did I?
Yeah.
I still think it's worth you watching.
All right, that's fine.
I think visually it's.
I think because it's Sean Baker. Yeah, let's do it. Cool. All right.
You have too good of a memory because I'd be like, I don't even remember the whole synopsis of the movie.
I remember the movie ends at
okay. You don't need
Disney World or something.
Name.
What? It's got the Florida Project.
Spoiling
all right.
it for the
audience. We're gonna spoil it next week. So, gotcha. All right. Well, I have a very different pick.
Okay.
So last week I've been on a Pokemon kick, and last week you just gave me a look. I've been on a Pokemon kick because Pokemon Day was on February 27th, and I've just been like really wanting to play a Pokemon game. It's kind of been a while. That's why I played Pokemon Yellow. So I'm kind of just like, you know, really feeling Pokemon right now. And I've had, you know, some Pokemon movies on my list for you.
Multiple.
We watched one and you enjoyed it. On the record, you enjoyed it.
I don't remember.
You talked about liking it. And then that was in 2022, granted. So like that was the first year that we were doing content swap, and we did Pokemon, and you enjoyed it. And then I gave you another Pokemon thing at the end of the year to do Scarlet and Violet, and that was back in 2022. And we haven't talked about Pokemon since. And now it's 2025. So I feel like I've waited long enough to give you another Pokemon related thing, and this is a movie, and it's Pokemon the Movie 3. It's short.
Haven't we watched 2 Pokemon movies?
We watched Pokemon the Movie 2000.
Right.
And that was it.
What's the one? Okay, what was the like one where it was like, what movie did we watch where it was like the kids like hacking? They had to like hack the computer.
Scooby-Doo Cyber Chase?
No, it was like
This is a Pokemon movie? Oh, Digimon. Digimon the movie. That's right.
Like,
I totally forgot. Hey, guess what? That was a year ago. So, and I was giving you like a lot of childhood movies at that time, and then I think Digimon the movie was kind of like, all right, no more childhood movies. Well, it's been a year. I think I have a free pass to give you Pokemon the Movie 3. We're doing it.
All right. At least it's a movie.
It's a movie.
It's like it's
probably like 80 minutes.
Okay. All right.
And it's like OG. Like it was like one of the last Pokemon movies to still be released in a theater.
Got you. Okay. So we have Pokemon 3 and
no, Pokemon the Movie 3.
Pokemon the Movie 3 and the Florida Project.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's called Pokemon 3 the Movie.
Oh my gosh.
Spell of the Unknown.
That's too long of a title.
I know. I'll just type in Pokemon 3 the Movie. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I deliberated with one of my friends about this decision. I was like, my friend randomly texted me. He said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Trying to figure out what Pokemon movie I want to give to Aaliyah." And we talked about it, and I was like, "I'm feeling Pokemon the Movie 3." And he was like, "Ooh, that was
Pokemon 3 the movie."
Sorry, Pokemon 3 the movie.
Get it right.
Yeah, my bad. And he was like, "Ooh, that's a good one." And he was like, "When this happens," I was like, "Oh yeah." And then when that happens, he was like, "Oh yeah." And we like went back and forth a few times. And I was like, "All right, yeah, bet. Like it's gonna be this one."
Oh my gosh. All right, we'll see.
Yeah, Pokemon 3 the Movie, Spell of the Unknown, and
the Florida Project.
The Florida Project. Okay, that'll be fun. Join us for episode 110, and maybe it'll come out next week. Maybe it'll come out in a month because baby boy is due any day.
Yes, I'm trying to get him out ASAP.
All right. We'll see you then. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Content Swap Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe on whatever channel you are listening to us on or whatever platform you're listening to us on. And stay content.
Crazy.
Stay swapping.
Oh my gosh.
Bye.
Bye.